Looking around. So I can't see. Is that the anchor? No, no, no. Hi divers, we are blind reacting today to scary scuba accidents. However, we're not just doing a normal reaction, we're going to do it with a twist. And that twist is bad diving bingo. Yep, I've made a whole bingo card of all the things we typically find in these scuba diving accident videos. And let's see what we kind of find and see if we get bingo at the end of this. So feel free to play along. And if you have any suggestions for other things we can add to the bingo card, please let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully, I'm kind of hopeful we don't get bingo today, but knowing how these videos often go, we probably won't. As always though, with these kind of scuba diving reaction videos, it's not to be mean to divers involved in these accidents. It's to use these videos as case studies so we can learn from them to have safer and happier dives so we don't have to get in these situations ourselves. And obviously myself, being a scuba diving instructor, I'm going to give you any tips and tricks along the way and give you a deep analysis at the end of the video. With that all said, let's jump into it. Let's go. Okay. Looks like good viz personally, so not too shabby. Ooh, split fins though. I should put that on the bingo card. So how many divers is that? 2, 4, 6. Oh, so 7 including the camera guy. It's a fairly big group. I say like because it's got in like pairs like this. It's actually not bad spacing at all. Oh yeah, so he's on his own at the back, so it's 7, not 8 then. Is that someone really high up there? Oh, here the boat. So they are super shallow. I'm just going to point this out right now. They are very, very shallow. And there's no DSMB, delayed surface marker point up, to warn that boat there below. Now typically boats do have good eyes on them. They have crew members who are spotting out for bubbles and stuff like that, especially if there's divers below. So if they've got a good crew, they should be fine. But realistically, they should have a DSMB up if they're this shallow. You never know though, this could be starting a dive though, so give them some benefit of the doubt right now. They could be starting a dive and whatnot. But if it's an ending a dive and they've gone this shallow, they really should have a DSMB up. But yeah, hopefully they will pay attention to that boat. When you see a boat, especially that close and that noisy, you should be keeping an eye on it. Just make sure it's all good. Also mindful of your dive buddies that no one's going to float up. Like that? No, they're not part of the group, are they? Is that a snorkeler on the surface? The way they're moving, it looks like a snorkeler. Someone's just gone vertical. Not great. Ooh. Just come back into trim. That's all good now. Looking around. So I can't see. Is that the anchor? No, no, no. Ooh, saved by the buddy there. Jeez. They just drop anchor on them. I am shook at that. No. No, 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 no. And look at that dragging along the reef. So it's a bad drop as well. It shouldn't be even dropped on a dive site in the first place. That's crazy. I wish I put anchor drop now on my bingo card. That's not on there. Absolutely wild. Completely on them as well. That's absolutely ridiculous. And someone's floating up there. Oh no. He's gone to save. So I guess that's the guide or instructor who's trying to get them caught back in line there. I don't think it hit anyone looking at it though. I don't think it's knocked that guy out or something, sent him to the surface. But yeah, I guess that could have started them. If they're not experienced, they can definitely get thrown off and then start breathing heavier and then cause them to ascend like that. Yeah, that is exactly how I feel. He's saying grab the anchor? Weird. Okay, but yeah, that is not okay. Are they going to hit the bottom now? Oh, touch the bottom. Or drop the camera on the bottom. Don't know why they did that. Oh my gosh. This is where the video ends. Okay, we're going to go back to the bingo card and see if we got bingo or not. I'm very curious. So, out of trim. One diver did go out of trim for 1 point in that. We did not see... Also, we saw them touch the bottom at the very end of the camera. Not great. Rapid ascent. I guess that person floated up, I'm going to include in rapid ascent. Floating up is his own thing, but typically you are going faster than typical ascent rates when you float up like that. And very easily done, especially in the shallows though, with the biggest volume changes from pressure. So it is something to keep an eye on. Buoyancy control is definitely more critical when you are in that scenario in the shallows. I guess that's also bad buoyancy control. That's another one we got down on there. What else have we got? Bad breathing could potentially be there, but I'm not going to do that. No DSMB deploy. So typically this is, I say, would be done at the end of the dive. If you're that shallow, you realistically do need a DSMB up. I'll talk more about that in a minute though. Just going to go through more of the kind of points first though. I didn't spot any hand raising. Depth limit's broken. No, it's very shallow, so it didn't break any depth limits. Reverse dive profile, potentially. So if this is the start of the dive, we're going to see if we can find some context in a minute. But say this is the start of the dive, that could be a potential one. No dive plan, hard to say in that one. Panic, I'm going to be real here. There wasn't much panicking for saying how crazy that actually was. I don't really think that was justified as a panic. But yeah, I don't think we got bingo, so that's a good thing at least. I'm happy we got no bingo, but we're going to go over this now. So let's first start with the divers and then I'll move on to the boat afterwards. So the divers, the first thing, they're very shallow. The grouping was fine. They seem to be, for the most part, always in trim. There's only that one time someone slipped up because they saw the boat. But generally, they look fine. I didn't see anything outrageous there. I think it just looked like a normal dive group. As if you put it like 2-2-2s, that's completely fine. You always got someone who's quite close to you. And even if it's the person ahead of you, they're still in reach if you have an out of air or situation. You can easily get in touch with someone. So that grouping is completely fine to do if you are in a bigger group. Personally, when I dive, I like to be in smaller groups than that. I'd like to have like 4 to 5 max in my kind of dive groups for fun dives, if that was a fun dive. But that's kind of me nitpicking a little bit there. As for them not having a DSMB in the shallows, let's talk about that. So there's 3 scenarios here, and one of them kind of gives them benefit of the doubt. The other 2 make them look bad, and we don't know which one it is yet. So the first one is it's the start of a scuba dive. So they've maybe done a shore dive, so that's why they're starting shallow, and then you're going to make their way to like a ledge maybe, or a drop off, and then they're going to go deeper. That's why they're starting shallow, and that's why it's like this. And obviously you wouldn't deploy a DSMB there at that point of the dive. You're not planning to go up, you plan to go deeper. So yes, that's the reason why they wouldn't have a DSMB deployed. Now, the other 2 scenarios where they probably should have a DSMB deployed is firstly, if they're going to do a very shallow dive. This is more reserved for things like DSDs, which is the Discover Scuba dive or the Try dives, what people do when they stick only to the shallows, max depth about 10 meters or 33 feet. In those kind of dives, you might have a DSMB deployed the whole time, especially if there's boat traffic in the area. And the third scenario, while they're in shallows, is that they have entered the dive, they're looking to start entering the dive, they're going to be making their way to a safety stop soon. If that's the case, they should have deployed the DSMB before even starting to shallow up that much. So, as I say, the last 2 scenarios, they really should have a DSMB deployed. They could have also a counter argument that there might be some mooring lines or buoys around, or buoys for the Americans. That's why they're not got any of this up as well, because there should be areas saying like, hey, the divers around, maybe some dive flags. That could be enough reason why they're not actually doing so. But because I can't see that in the video, I'm just going to have to assume there isn't any in place. But that's just something to keep in mind why they might not have a DSMB, even if they are planning on having a shallow dive or looking to end the dive because they're making their way to an exit point. Now, the boat. So obviously, if this is a drift dive area, if it's anywhere with boat traffic, it could be, there are boats around, it could be even their own dive boat. I'll be shocked if it is their own dive boat, that's really shocking. But there is still a chance of that. Now, if you see a boat above you, they did the good thing, they slowed the dive down, they kept their eyes on it, just make sure what it's doing. And they were very fortunate because they did drop anchor on them, which could have been very, very bad if that did land on someone. Anchors weigh an absolute ton. It can be a very serious injury potentially there. Now, on the boat crew side of things, they messed up big time in several ways. First one is awareness on the water. This is very shallow reef. So because of that, if they have like Polaroid glasses on, they have good boat spotters and crew members, they often can spot divers like this. They can see that the bubbles up into the surface. Say good Polaroid glasses. If it's that shallow with this much good visibility, you can actually see divers in this kind of terrain. So it shows a lack of awareness on the crew side of things that this all happens. Maybe it's just one boat with just a captain, so he's got no crew, so he's having to be his own eyes and ears. Still very, very sloppy. But the issue is dropping anchor on a dive site. So dive sites typically are no drop anchor zones. You do not do that. Lots of places we go diving in the world are marine protected areas, so boats should not be dropping anchor on there or fishing in those areas. I have seen it happen plenty of times though, unfortunately, that people just ignore these rules, and it is what it is at the end of the day. You can try and report it, but I say often these parts of the world, sometimes where it's very remote and sometimes less policed areas, it's hard to do so, and it's hard to like get proof of who it was and whatnot. Obviously having video footage is great for evidence, but what actually happens from it, I don't know. Curious to know if there is any outcome from this video, if they were to sue the captain for this, or if there was kind of some legal dispute afterwards. Very, very curious on that side of things. But I'm just going to say from my own experience, this stuff typically kind of people get away with it, unfortunately. important to really mention it as well in this video. Great save by the dive buddy. They saw the anchor was dragging and was going towards their dive buddy. He was not aware of it coming towards them, so they grabbed it and moved it away from them. That's amazing teamwork. Really, that diver was best buddy on that situation. If they show the video to that diver as well after the video, definitely buy the guy a drink, because that could have been really nasty. If that anchor hit them, I don't know how much force it would hit them with, but the issue could be an entanglement. It could catch onto their gear and snag onto them, and then they get pulled along the reef from it. Lots of nasty things could happen potentially there, so they're very fortunate from that. And obviously we saw at the end of the dive, they seemed to panic or start breathing wrong. It's very unclear in the footage, but I'd assume that just because they're not paying attention, they're kind of getting distracted by this whole anchor drop situation, but they start to breathe incorrectly and they weren't exhaling as well as they should have done, which caused them to float up, because buoyancy control, if it's not done properly in the shallows, it's very easy to float upwards. And then the guide / instructor went up to them to try and sort them out, and it seems like they both just ended up on the surface, unfortunately, at the end of the dive. I don't know if they were able then to bring them back down again, if it was an end of the dive situation, so everyone else just rejoined them on surface or whatnot. But that wasn't brilliant, obviously. Anyway, I want to find out if there's any extra context here, so I'm going to have a quick look at the description, see if there's any comments. Let's have a quick nosy. So, description: every captain and sailor must be careful and sensitive to avoid such an accident. So that doesn't really give us much. All it just highlights is that they're putting the blame on the captain, which is correct. I guess the argument could be that they don't have a DSMB, so I don't know if legally they would have a leg to stand on, but they are blaming the captain, and rightfully so. Just shouldn't be dropping anchor on a dive site. What's this? I'm the guy who catch the hook. Oh, this guy the hero. Awesome. So this is the one who saves the dive buddy. What a legend. Okay. All dive... Not great English. We're going to have to go. All diver, including me, is a newbie diver, and we all have 20 to 25 dives total at that time. Okay, I'd say 20 to 25 is not terribly inexperienced. The guy should be reasonable. I'm assuming probably advanced diver level. Yeah, they should be okay here. So I wouldn't say that's a newbie diver personally. They should be adequate enough. So the diver going out of trim and the one floating up is a bit worrying if they have that much experience. But yeah, we'll continue. This shush is happened on the beginning of the dive. Okay, good to know. So this is what I was talking about before. So it's good that this is the start of the dive, not the end of the dive. So that gives more justification for not having a DSMB deployed. Here, depth is around 5 to 6 meters, and of course we didn't deploy SMB because it was the head of the dive. Yeah, as I said. So if it's only 5 to 6 meters, yeah, it looks about that. I'd be arguably maybe an extra meter or so deeper, but you're kind of splitting hairs at that point. Yeah, unless they were planning to stay at that depth, you wouldn't really deploy DSMB. I would say though, it's a bit weird that they are going so long, well, say so long, 2 minutes on long in that kind of flat area. You'd hope they'd be dropping off for a better dive profile, because obviously with a good dive profile, you want to go to the deepest point of the dive as soon as possible, and then you can have as much bottom time as possible for hitting your NDLs, and then you can have your slow gradual ascent out the dive at the end. So having to like start when you are in the shallows and wasting time there, you typically have a shorter bottom time for your dive. Just something to keep in mind just for dive planning. It'd be better if they did drop straight down to a deeper area. However, we don't know if they are shore diving, we don't know if it's just crew had a bad drop from their boat. All these kind of things can come into play there, but just something if they can avoid it, would have been better if they started deeper rather than having a lot of time in the shallows there. As we saw then, because they are exposed around more boat traffic because they don't have DSMBs deployed until that point. However, you would assume there may be some dive flags or maybe mooring lines or buoys available if it's where they just started the dive. So, be interested to see if there's any more about that. Normally, the site is only for dive boats. Okay. Fishing boats, travel boats are not allowed to stop here. Very typical for dive sites. And also, because of the Poseidonian Poseidonia oceanica habitat, anchoring is forbidden. Again, very standard for dive sites and marine protected areas, which sounds like that. What's that? Poseidonia oceania is, I'm assuming. Also for dive boats, yeah. Any boats should not be dropping anchors. If it's reef down there, that's always bad. There could be wildlife and marine life. As well, that it's kind of all rocky and whatnot, but I've talked about this before. Even just rocks can contain marine life. It can be like microorganisms and stuff, what part of the food chain. So you shouldn't be disturbing that if you can avoid it. What happened on surface? Of course, we had dive flag and etc. at surface. Great. This boat who anchor us is furrowed boat. Oh no, and not know area well. It usually is people unfamiliar with areas, people unfamiliar with like what the kind of flags and stuff are on the surface, and it's a common issue. Unfortunately, there's no policing for these waters, so people can still bring the boats through there, and they don't know what the kind of markings are, they don't know what the certain buoys represent, dive flags, a DSMB even. They don't know what that means, and it can be really bad. This is often people who end up running over DSMBs and stuff like that because they don't know what they are. They're usually very big boats who just don't really care about it, and it's really unfortunate. It's really hard to get hold of these people, and yeah, it's just one of those really frustrating things. If anyone's got any better experience on this, and if you've ever had a situation where you've had to deal with foreign boats who don't know the area well or have had these situations, how you've dealt with it, from my experience, they typically just get away with it, which is really frustrating, and they are the ones who drop anchor on reefs and do a lot of damage. So, not great. Our dive boat tried to contact with them via radio, but no response. Of course, they're not responding if they're doing this. They also yelling to them. Again, they don't understand what our guy's saying, and at the end, this happened. Before the dive finish, they escaped, and we didn't communicate with them again. Yeah, very typical. If these things are going wrong, they're getting radio, they're getting people like, oi, you're not doing a good job here, what are you doing, blah, blah, blah. And if they don't understand the language, or pretend they don't understand the language, they're just going to hightail out there, like, okay, this is not worth the headache, we're just going to get out of here. And unfortunately, the damage is already done. You've dropped anchor on divers, dropped anchor on reef, you've caused this annoyance and disturbance. Not good. And it's just very, very frustrating. Anyway, this almost accident. Okay, almost accident, so that makes it sound like it definitely didn't hit anyone then. Teach us so many things. Hopefully he's going to list what the things he's learnt. After this time, when I hear any boat voice, I always looking around for any hook. Yeah, so I was kind of saying this before. It's good that they kind of stopped and kind of started looking at the boat. Keep your eye on the boat, especially if it's one really nearby to you. Just keep an eye on what it's doing. Just hold your dive for a second. Not that they're going to drop anchor on you. That is one of the things that could happen. But just keep an eye on what's it doing. If it's very close by, if you're in the shallows, it's really important that you just know where it is. Know not to end your dive. Even if you plan, say, you've shallowed up, done your safety stop, know, oh, let's end the dive. If you hear a boat and you can see one nearby, wait for that to pass before you go to the surface. There's no point risking getting hit by a boat. So if you're in the shallows, keep in mindful of that. As a guide / instructor, keep an eye on your students, especially ones you think have problems with buoyancy control, in case they might float up. This is really important. If you can hear a boat around, that you are making sure your students and divers look very good, so they're not going to float up, because they could get hit by a boat if they do right now. It's a very dangerous time. So yes, awareness on boats when they're around you and you can hear them, very important. Typically, by the way, if you hear a loud noise, always look up. It's most likely a boat. Just a good tip there. And don't worry, all divers in this video has no harm. Fantastic. And still are diving with many more experience. Great. So, sorry about the broken English there. I wasn't going to try and translate that to good English. I thought I'd just read it as it is. But yeah, I'm glad that no one got hurt. I'm very lucky as well, that anchor, because it was going to path for someone else. So this guy was awesome that he actually did save him there. But it does just kind of highlight a big frustration with these kind of boats who just ignore kind of the laws and rules in place in these areas, especially when it's a marine protected area, especially when it's dive sites. It's just so frustrating. Like, there's all the markings there, they should have all the knowledge about what's going on in this area, but they just don't care and just do this. And then if they feel like they're getting caught and people are radioing them or trying to like call them out on it, they just try and hightail it out of there. And it seems to not get many repercussions, so it's a big frustration of mine. But I say, if anyone's got any more experience with this and they want to share their stories about this sort of thing, if they've had some similar encounter, if they've had a encounter and they've actually resolved it and able to do something about it, I'd love to hear about this down below. But anyway, if you think I missed anything out during this video, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We can have a conversation in the comments. So let me know if you like the bingo idea. I'd love to do more of that. I think it's kind of a fun thing to make it a bit more interactive. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. It helps me out a ton, but help other divers find this video too. And you should also check out this video here. I think you're going to have a good time looking at watching that. And just hit this button down below to subscribe to my channel to see more scuba diving content. Anyway, divers, hope you have an awesome and safe dives, and I'm going to see you all in the next video. Bye bye.